Good afternoon. Today we are celebrating some change makers, important people who put our Lompoc-Vandenberg branch of the American Association of University Women on the map. So I'm excited to have our charter members who are still active branch members with me today. My name is Lucy Tomes Harrington, and I'm the branch president. And with me is Tonya Schultz and Myra Wapner. So welcome, you two. And we're missing Donna Woods, who is recovering from an illness. So we'll catch up with Donna a little bit later, but we're excited to have Tonya and Myra with us. And so we're going to just kind of ask some questions and get their perspectives and have them double click on their memory buttons on what it was like in 1964 when this branch got chartered. So the first question I have, and I'll start with you, Myra, is what brought you to the AAUW Lompoc-Vandenberg branch in 1964?
Well, actually, it was the Lompoc Record. The
Oh.
newspaper had a little article in it about a meeting that was going to take place, and anyone who joined at that meeting would be a charter member. And I had not been aware of anything prior to seeing this little article in the newspaper, and I decided, I think I will go over to that meeting and see what it's all about. When I had finished college, I think I had received some information about AAUW, but I was back in St. Louis at that time and just starting to work on a new job of teaching, and it just wasn't the right time for me to get involved. So,
So was it a surprise when you showed up? How many people were there in the meeting?
I have no idea how many people were there. At that time, when the branch first started, they were meeting once a month. And I have no idea how many people were at that meeting, that the first meeting that I went to, but I just went ahead and joined and
Good
have
for
been a
you.
member ever
There
since.
you are.
And we're happy that you did. What about you, Tanya?
I was privileged to receive a scholarship from AAUW while I was in my maybe sophomore year at San Diego State College before it became San Diego State University. And it wasn't a large scholarship, but it was so meaningful to me. And I got to go to a meeting and meet the ladies who were involved and thank them personally. So when a group of us started talking in Lompoc, the thought came up, why don't we start our own branch here? And that's when we did the research to find out how we needed the background. And I think there were 13 of us at the beginning. I think that's about the number that joined to start with. And we just said, okay, you be president, you be vice president, you be secretary, you be treasurer. And we began doing activities, including having speakers. Myra was right. We did meet once a month. I can remember it was at someone's house. And if you were president, then you usually had the meetings at your house. So there was a business meeting, there was some kind of activity, there was refreshments. You know how ladies are. So it became a social support group and a support group for women all at the same time. And in those days, of course, there were some really big barriers to joining. You had to be a college graduate. You had to do this and that. And I think we're taking a look at those things today. So for me, it was a way to give back to the community. I was at that time the mother of a 5-year-old just starting kindergarten, a 2-year-old, and I was starting half-time teaching kindergarten myself. So it was really a busy time.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what were the issues of the day back in 1964 that you can remember kind of being front and center for AAUW and in the community?
I can remember reading a lot of the books of the time, Simone de Beauvoir and a lot of the movers and shakers, the women. Now magazine was just being put together and out there. So there was a lot of thinking, and it was two parts because I was in a marriage and raising two children. There was a lot of talk about being a solo and a lot to think about.
Mhm.
So it was appropriate to learn about everyone's view on what women should be doing in 1964. And at the same time, you knew that you had two precious babies to take care of and to create an environment for a healthy childhood for them and for a life for you and for your partner.
Mhm.
So there were a lot of things going on in a woman's head. Sometimes the pendulum swings so
Mhm.
far to one side that it's way out of balance.
Mhm.
And I'm a big proponent of balance.
Mhm.
So it was an interesting time to have the bombardment of the new ideas of the
Yep.
women's movement
Mhm.
and still know that there were some things that were worth keeping.
Mhm. Myra, your thoughts?
Well, the organization, as I remember, was really somewhat different than it is today. As Tanya already mentioned, at that time, it really was the American Association of University Women. You had to have a degree from a four-year accredited institution to be a member.
Mhm.
And at that time, if I remember correctly, national established on some kind of basis, and perhaps they were voted on, 4 areas of study. And then our branch being a small branch, from these 4 major areas of study, we selected one to concentrate on in our branch. Is that the way you remember it, Tanya?
I think so, yes.
And then many of our speakers at our meetings were ones that we could try to bring in that would have some connection with this field of study. You recall meeting at people's houses. My recollection was that and maybe it was after we had a few more members, that we met at a place called Loops, which was a restaurant connected to, I just did some research on this, to the Lions Motel. Now this no longer exists because we could go there and order dessert and coffee during our meeting.
Yeah.
And we met there, I think, for a good many years, I think, at the beginning.
Well, there's nothing like a dessert to draw a crowd. That's been my experience.
They had very good pie
Oh, that's good.
at
Yeah.
this restaurant, as I remember.
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
you remember what our field
Yeah.
of interest was at the branch? What we were assigned?
What we voted on, I really don't.
Uh-huh.
I don't either.
Too many years ago. I can remember that we must have had a book club, or maybe we just put this out in general. I can remember one time we concentrated on a number of reading of books that dealt with racial issues at the time.
Uh-huh.
But as I say, I don't remember if these fields of study were for 2 years or 4 years. Do you remember, Tanya?
I don't. I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
what about yourselves? What were the biggest challenges that you faced at that time as a woman leader, as a AAUW charter member, as a wife, as a mom, as a woman, as all of those things? What do you think, Myra? Biggest challenges you faced in
Well, at that
1964?
time, I had moved away from family in
Mm-hmm.
1962 to come to Lompoc. Like Tanya, I was raising 3 relatively young children at the time. So just balancing my family and trying to get involved with some things in the community.
Uh-huh.
you know, that was just a challenge. My husband often would go back to the office in the evening, and which meant if I needed to leave, there was a babysitter involved or
Yep.
something like that.
Mhm.
So just getting a balance on things and still being able to be my own person, I think, was a
Mhm.
challenge at the time.
Yeah.
Yes. And time for creative activities
Oh, yeah.
and
Mhm.
things as well. I remember taking some art classes, um, trying to keep alive that spark of creativity, which for me was extremely important. And that was a piece of it. And I think the value of making the contacts through AAUW, the women who were part of the group, it was really special to have them as friends and acquaintances,
Mhm.
and together, pretty inspiring what people were doing. But I think for all women at that point, all the women I'm thinking about, it was a balancing act all the time.
Mhm.
Time for self, time for the couple, and time for the family, and being sure that everyone got the share of whatever we were doing. And of course, in those days, there wasn't so much buying fast foods and things, so you cooked and you did the meals at home,
Mhm.
and that was just how things went in those days. So that was a joy for me because that's another creative activity. But that took time and
Sure.
planning. Yes. And then as the children grew, the children's activities, which required, um, putting a taxi sign on top of your car and from, from campfire to 4-H to dance to horses to whatever it was that we were doing with the children. Yeah. So quite a full time. That's why we have children in the young part of our lives and not in our retirement.
Yeah, I took the slower road than the two of you. Hope came along when I was 40. And when she came along, I thought to myself, well, now I see why people have children in their 20s where the energy level is a little bit higher. Yep.
Oh, yes, I understand that. Because I can remember saying I was going to have all my children by the time I was 30, so I would be able to run after them.
And that's
Very
the
good.
point.
Now, what about your brand story? What keeps you interested in staying a member of our branch? Myra?
Well, first of all, I am an honorary life member at this point. So um,
So yay.
that keeps me here and interested. Um, I still think that the branch does things of value in the community. I have always been pleased that the branch has held the candidate forums before elections. Um,
Increasingly important.
I
Increasingly
think
important.
I think we've gone in some interesting directions in trying to be involved with promoting the interests in speech and science
Mm-hmm.
and math
Mm-hmm.
with young girls at this point, so that perhaps that they will set their sights on something higher for themselves when they finish high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's been a very value movement from our branch.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, what about you, Tanya? What keeps you interested in being a branch member after 60 years?
Well, I had enjoyed a lot of the years of doing parts of the workshops for young women
Oh, yeah.
and those drawing people from the high school, and was very excited with the scholarship program that's been going on for years and years. And I know how much difference that makes, having worked in the field of marriage family therapy. What a difference it makes when someone offers you a hand and says, you could be or you could do
Yes.
something that maybe you hadn't even anticipated. It's pretty thrilling. And what I think you say to yourself is, someone believes in me. And
Yes.
once that happens, that creates an energy and an inner strength that is just so very important. We have some amazing people in this branch of AAUW who have done this work with youngsters for years and years and years. And I'm not including myself because I haven't done it as many years, but I'm very much appreciating the fact that people gave their time and energy. Many members, many of our women have given hours to seeing that these young people are exposed to something that is going to move them perhaps in a more successful direction. So that's exciting for me. I have not connected with the branch down here. I keep my connection with Lompoc, and that's important to me, even though I don't get to meetings very often because I have moved away from the area. But I like the flavor of what's going on. I also like what's going on at the college level for young women and the support there. And when we have helped to support someone who has an issue and needs some backup to confront whatever has happened in her life at the college level. So I see a voice for good. I see a kind of interference that's important if people are going to experience all of their rights and privileges, whether they're male or female or what all we have, how we define ourselves. So I stand for the concepts.
Well, our branch is stronger because of you two and because of Donna. Our branch is stronger because of the foundation you laid. What's your favorite memory of AUW over these last 60 years? Myra?
I don't know if there's probably more than one memory, but I do remember early on, and I remember it because it was connected with Tanya. We did membership teas, and the membership tea at, I think, more than 1 year, we held it at what's called the Vandenberg Inn. Is that still the name of it up in the village?
Yeah, I think that is. Yeah.
Close.
But anyway, you know where the building is. And we would bake up a storm and do all kinds of little finger sandwiches. And we put on quite a membership tea in the hope of bringing in new members.
Fun. That's a fun memory. Was it a requirement that you could bake or you could make some appetizers or you could mix a
No, I think we
cocktail or something?
basically, I think the two of us did most of it ourselves, didn't we?
Yes, yes. I think you're talking about women of this, what, the 60s? And you just did it because that's what you did, you know. And there's joy in that as well. That's a great creative process. I agree with Myra. We were in an upstairs room in that hotel, and the room, when there was wind, which Lompoc has rather occasionally, like every day, the room would sway. Myra, do you remember that?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what my best memory was. I really think working at Lompoc High School with the groups that came in to learn about what they could do and being able to teach some of those groups. The girls came junior high school age, and they went from station to station learning about different activities. And that was really important because you could hear and you could see the eyes light up in the voices as they realized that these opportunities were open for them. So to me, that was extremely exciting. Yeah,
It's a great memory. And
There
what
were
do you,
also a number of years that we sponsored a flower festival.
exactly
Me.
right. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We had our fingers in a lot of good things.
I can remember hearing some stories about churros,
Yes,
selling the churros.
Oh, yes.
forever. Oh my goodness. that was huge. That was a commitment at Flower Festival.
I'll
And
bet.
the people involved with that were sterling. They kept the machines from year to year. They set it up, and churros were great, especially if it was a time when everyone wanted something sweet. You know, it was just wonderful. Yeah. So that was a money maker. And the money maker, I think, as far as I know, all went to scholarships. We didn't we didn't do anything for our club with that money. That was all scholarship money and went to the youngsters that were deserving.
Churros for a good cause.
Yes, I think the very first year we tried watermelon, and it was on a year that it was cold. It wasn't a warm flower festival, and watermelon did not sell that year.
Go over.
There's a lot of take home. There's a lot of take home for the watermelon.
A lot of watermelons. Yeah.
Well, what's your advice that you would give today to women and girls? Myra, what do you think?
Well, we just need to keep plugging and working toward establishing equality. I mean, this was a problem 60 years ago. Yes, we've made progress, but we are still working on this. Equality for women in the workforce, in politics,
Yep,
and we still have a long way to go.
we do. Tanya?
And I think on a personal level, getting the message that you are just as you should be. You are as good and as wonderful and as precious as you can be. Take that inside. Know that you're whole and proceed with what seems the most logical, the most kind, the most appropriate and comfortable for you as a woman, a young woman. Being aware of your ability to read the social world, to make a decision about what you do and you don't do with your mind and your body, and treating yourself well, knowing you belong in this world. And I guess the other part is not giving up, because you go through a life, you will start in direction A. And unless you're totally unique individual, you will go to point B, point C, point D, and somewhere along the line, you know, ABC was the most comfortable, or maybe X was. And allowing for change, because I can tell you, after all these years, the one thing you can count on is change. And as we get to the point that Myra and I are, I think what I'm talking about is I'm taking off layers. I'm taking off things that I don't need anymore. It's much more simple, and needs are smaller, needs are more basic. And I think the things that are important are your relationships, and what you leave as a legacy is how people remember you. So what you do and how you do it and how you connect with your fellow persons is very important. So when you see someone who needs a hand, give it to them, and bring people along with you as you grow, and not to lose faith in yourself, always to know you're going to be just fine exactly as you are. So feeling encouraged to be the person you are and not having to follow someone else in order to be something. You are something already.
Great, great words of advice. I want to thank both of you for, again, being charter members, for founding our branch that's going on and doing the work. Myra says, we got to keep working. We got to keep working. There's work to be done, that's for sure. But it was made possible by you two and the other, and Donna and the other charter members back in 1964. So thanks for being change makers. Thanks for being part of our branch.
Thank you, Lucy.